On Sunday, the Organization of the Oil Trading Nations, OPEC, and a gathering of makers driven by Russia, known as OPEC Besides, reported that they will keep up with their ongoing oil creation levels. This move suggests that these leading oil-producing countries are unsure about the future direction of crude oil prices. This decision comes ahead of the implementation of a price cap on Russia's petroleum exports, which is intended to reduce Russia's revenue for the ongoing Ukraine conflict. The OPEC Plus alliance will use this pause to assess the market impact of the price cap, which was proposed by the Group of Seven, G7, and the European Union, EU. On Monday, a production cut of 2 million barrels per day, which was decided in October, will take effect. There is uncertainty among both world traders and government energy officials regarding how this will impact the market. Furthermore, an EU ban on most imports of Russian oil will begin the same day. It's been reported that the president of China, Xi Jinping, will be making a trip to Saudi Arabia soon. The focus of the visit is said to be on the energy markets, with discussions between the world's top oil importer and the largest oil exporter on the agenda. Moreover, Saudi Arabia is expected to reveal its prices for spot market customers in Europe, Asia, and the US on Monday, which will be carefully watched for indications of the kingdom's perspective on the market. Before Sunday's peculiar meeting, where the cap was agreed upon, OPEC had considered various options. The meeting, which was at first planned as an in-person assembling, was unexpectedly switched over completely to a virtual gathering. Usually, OPEC meets during the work week, but this meeting was scheduled for the weekend before the price cap and EU embargo, with no explanation provided. During the OPEC meeting, some members suggested that production should be increased due to concerns about potential disruptions of Russian oil following the price cap, which some analysts estimated could reach 1 million to 1.5 million barrels per day. However, Russian officials reaffirmed that they will not trade any oil with nations that implement the price cap. Despite this, a consensus was reached that it was not the right time to increase output. According to OPEC delegates, prices have fallen 13% in the past month and dropped 5% in one day last month after the Wall Street Journal and other organizations reported on talks of an output increase. In spite of the fact that costs have since balanced out, Brent crude, the worldwide benchmark, was exclusively at 85.42 pennies on Friday, and WTI, the US benchmark, was at $80.34. Which is far underneath the objective degree of $90 a barrel that some market examiners say the gathering needs to see. Some OPEC members, such as Saudi Energy Minister Prince Abdul Aziz bin Salman, suggested the possibility of another production cut following the 2 million barrels a day cut in October that surprised the White House and angered much of Washington. This cut would have shown that OPEC Plus was concerned about Chinese lockdowns designed to stop resurgent COVID-19 outbreak and their impact on demand, which have caused all prices to decline in recent days. The decision by G7 and the EU to impose a price cap has generated mixed reactions from OPEC and oil traders. The intention behind the cap is to reduce Moscow's oil revenue, while still maintaining a significant supply of Russian oil on the global market. The move is designed to exploit the Western world's dominance of key maritime services and limit Moscow's capacity to wage war in Ukraine. Following the EU's agreement to the cap, oil prices fell on Friday as traders discounted the possibility that the mechanism would flood the market with Russian oil and lead to a supply issue. This year, Russian crude has been exchanging at a significant rebate, with gauges putting the cost at around $48 a barrel. In any case, because of the cost cap, specialists foresee that north of 1 million barrels of rough each day will be impacted, a projection that lines up with the International Energy Agency's IEA conjecture of 1.4 million barrels every day decline. Russian oil production in October stood at 9.9 million barrels per day, with Russia relying on its growing dark fleet to ship its oil. In recent months, an unusually high number of tankers have changed ownership, which analysts and shipping industry officials believe is a push by Russia to continue transporting significant volumes of its crude. entities willing to profit from the Russian oil trade in a sanctions regime have been increasingly including not only tankers shipping sanctioned Iranian and Venezuelan oil, but also larger volumes of Russian oil and products in the darker or shadow fleet of oil tankers. There are some new developments in the world of maritime transportation services. The EU and G7 have implemented a ban on these services for crude oil that costs more than $60 per barrel. Meanwhile, Russia has stated that it will not accept this cap and will instead trade with friendly partners who are willing to take on its crude without the insurance of Western companies. In preparation for the EU embargo on imports of Russian crude oil that was announced months ago and is set to take effect on December 5th, many older vessels that are nearing the end of their service life and bound for scrap have changed ownership. These vessels are now owned by companies that are not associated with the EU or G7, such as firms based in Dubai. However, shipping analysts and brokers are warning that shipping oil with old tankers without the insurance of EU G7 companies is risky and could lead to disaster. Despite this warning, many off-market tanker sales have taken place, with tankers being sold to previously unknown entities based outside the EU and G7 countries. The so-called dark tanker fleet continues to grow as a result. Reputable owners are avoiding involvement with this dark fleet, but some less scrupulous owners are enticed by the opportunity to earn more money than market rates. According to Putin and partners, these premium earnings are a strong incentive for opportunistic owners to get involved in these trades. In fact, January and early November, at least 60 very large crude carriers, VLCCs, 42 Suezmax tankers, and 93 Aframax vessels changed ownership, according to Putin and partners' estimates. Tankers typically get scrapped once they reach 15 years of age. However, the average age of tankers is currently more than 15 years, and with unknown owners in the mix, the price of second-hand tankers has risen significantly this year. One example is the Aframax tanker, which is 20 years old and has increased in price by 86% year to date, from $11.8 million to $22 million. The spike in demand for vintage tanker tonnage can be attributed to the impending sanctions increasing values for the sector. Vessel values state that the tankers trading in the dark fleet will tighten vessel supply, which could continue to support the sector in terms of earnings and values. There are speculations that the tanker market will split into two categories. Those operating in Russian waters will move to other trades, while others will seek to capitalize on the premiums resulting from Russian trades despite the sanctions. According to TradeWind's research, 393 tankers, or 43% of vessels' transactions since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, were sold to unknown owners or newly established companies. Furthermore, several tankers registered in EU member states such as Malta, Cyprus, and Greece have left their registry so far this year. According to an official from the Malta Flag Administration, they are not familiar with the buyers, but they are confident that most of these vessels are destined for Russia. It may be difficult for Russia to sell all its oil to markets like China, India, and Turkey, since the market for old tankers is busy and unpredictable. Experts say that Russia is also fighting back against rival countries like the US with its plan, and not just through sanctions and negative media coverage. The ongoing economic war between Russia and the US involving other European countries has had a significant effect on the global oil industry. This has led to uncertainty regarding crude oil prices and the impact of price caps imposed by the EU and G7, which has made leading oil producers cautious in their decision-making. The recent virtual meeting of OPEC Plus shows that even the top oil producers are unsure about the direction of crude prices. The upcoming meeting between Chinese president and Saudi Arabia's energy markets could significantly influence the future of the global oil industry. Additionally, Saudi Arabia's decision to announce its prices for spot market customers in Europe, Asia, and the US may provide insight into the kingdom's perception of the market. The global oil industry has been affected by the ongoing economic conflict between the United States and Russia. which has also involved several European nations. The implications have been significant, with crude prices becoming increasingly uncertain and the market impact of EU and G7 price cap measures causing leading oil producers to exercise caution in their decision-making. Another concern is the emergence of the dark fleet, a growing number of oil tankers whose potential for disaster has prompted warnings from shipping analysts and brokers. As for the future, it is unclear who will emerge as the dominant player in the global oil industry. There is the possibility of emerging countries like Saudi Arabia or Singapore gaining prominence, or perhaps a superpower like China taking the lead. Ultimately, only time will reveal the outcome.